Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Divya, and I head the sales for MoEngage in Indonesia. Very happy to be here, and I will introduce you the panelists in about a minute or so. But just before that, so this panel is to talk about effective segmentation strategies to fuel customer engagement. Before I begin, I just wanted to understand from the audience, right? What do you think is effective segmentation? Just chat away. Practical and efficient segmentation strategies can really be the biggest game changer when it comes to customer engagement, right? So the benefits of having an insightful and impactful segmentation strategy really goes often understated, but it's actually of vital importance in today's customer engagement strategy, right? So, and obviously those organizations who do customer segmentation, obviously those guys have higher profits than those who don't, right? But what are the best practices that, for a segmentation study that will help you resonate with the target market? So to discuss with me on this today, I'm inviting 5 awesome people here, and I'm going to start ladies first. I'm going to start with introducing Agnes Lie, VP of Growth Marketing at OVO. Agnes comes with a decade-plus experience in tech, business, management consulting, strategy, digital, and operational transformation. Agnes, can you say hi?
Hi, Divya. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Okay. So next we have Cahyanto Arie Wibowo. He's the head of product growth at KapanLagi Youniverse. He comes with a vast multi-industry experience all the way from and to manage full life cycle products life cycle all the way from requirements to launch for all new products and features that support the KLY group. Sorry.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, awesome. Moving on, we have Dian Gemiano. He is the Chief Marketing Officer at Kompas Gramedia. Dian also comes with vast experience in advertising, media, digital marketing, e-commerce strategy, and innovation.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. Then we have Indina Andamari, VP of Head of Marketing and Communications at Kredivo. Indina comes with deep expertise in consulting, product marketing, brand marketing, alliances, and communication.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And finally, we have Khalid Raheel. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Amar Bank. Khalid comes with 2 decades of experience across the marketing spectrum.
Lovely to be here.
Okay, awesome. So segmentation as an engagement tactic has gained prime importance in customer strategy to date, right? So how do you design your segmentation strategy? Like, what are some of the factors you use to segment your audience and, create user cohorts? So I think I'm going to start, ladies first. So Agnes, let's go with you.
Sure. Thanks, Divya. So maybe I'll illustrate what we do at OVO. There are 2 spectrums of segmentation sophistication that we do in OVO. The most basic form of segmentation being the standardized demographic segmentation approach, mainly leveraging whatever we know of the users. For example, with the information that they have shared with us upon signups, using age, gender, marital status for payment as well as risk profiles for our investment business. And this is what we typically do in the absence of information when a user is new or when we are trying to launch a new product so that we can get awareness out to our target audience while still remaining relevant, right? The most refined sophistication and of segmentation is actually the behavioral segmentation approach, which really entails dividing and grouping audiences based on how they act on our platforms. And this could range from the in-app behaviors to the actual transactions that they make using our wallet. And the reason why this is so powerful is it enables us to be more precise with regards to our targeting and opens up room for A/B testing, right? And it typically yields better result because the analysis, the treatment that we are giving to the users are based on real data rather than, a presumed knowledge. And we can even take it a notch further by combining this behavioral data with both predictive and deterministic modeling in order to pursue certain business objectives such as preventing churn, increasing cross-sell, or optimizing for CVR. So to answer the question in short, it is a step process. Like we typically start by a standard market survey, doing a demographic segmentation, and as we accumulate enough data with time, we typically move towards the more personalized approach.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I see you do that because I'm a user of OVO as well, and it's like, oh, it's like you're stalking me, but in a good way.
Definitely, whatever we have, basically whatever we got from you during our KYC, we try to find the boundaries, right, between not being too spammy and too stockish, like whatever you mentioned, because we take privacy really seriously, and whatever we do in terms of personalization ultimately is at least geared towards improving the customer experience. But thanks, Divya, for being our OVO users.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Agnes. That completely made sense, right? So, I want to understand also from, now that we're in the Agnes FinTech here, so I want to understand, Indina, what about you at Kredivo?
Yeah, thanks. I think to put things in perspective first, I think quite different from OVO, we're like a credit wallet. So we give a certain credit limit to our users. So we're a buy now, pay later solution. I think exactly like how Klarna works in Europe or Affirm in the US, right? Which really blooms in this part of the world. So you can think of us as a digital credit card. So what we do is the customer segmentation, I think similar to what Agnes does as well. So we take the behavioral approach. So I think we focus on so we map out the customer journey first, and then identify the key drivers of each stage. And then we prioritize based on which one would bring the biggest impact. It could be the size of the pool, and then highest revenue, and then also low-hanging fruits, meaning that you have enough data to work with so that your hypothesis can be more accurate, and then also easier to execute. So past transaction behavior is definitely what we look into. So for example, favorite feature, because we offer three main offerings: the cash loan, e-commerce / retail purchase, and also digital products. And which product categories that they're buying at our merchant partners, frequency, and then recency as well, and then the basic demographics. We have a wide range of same education, marital status, and geographic and psychographic as well. So we are using a data science model to then have scoring of each one that results in a heat map, so that that helps us to prioritize which segment to focus on. And then once we collect these features, and then we create profiling of each segment until you have a persona, and within that segment you have similar characteristics. And that then allows you to personalize the messaging and A/B testing with a control group, and then prove your hypothesis before you make it a regular campaign.
Right. Okay, awesome. I guess you really hit the nail on that. So on that one, I guess you guys really know what you're doing, and you have it all sorted, right? Awesome. Thanks, Indina. So just before I move on, so for the audience, if you guys have any questions at all at any time, just feel free to drop in the chat and we will answer. And if you want to ask to a specific panelist, also ask away. Okay, thank you, Indina. Khalid, yes, what about you guys at Amar Bank?
So yeah, at Amar Bank, we are a full-fledged digital-only bank. So we have a loan platform, that is Tunaiku. And we also have something called Senimku, which is intelligence savings. So here, if we look at customers, we both are two different products and both bring in different kinds of people, different kinds of behaviors. So if I take an example of Tunaiku, which essentially gives you a loan between 2 million to 20 million, and you have a repayment period that you can choose for. It's a flexible repayment loan. So here, when we look at segmentation, it's very important to understand who's our consumer, because consumer is shopping for a benefit, and who's your customer, because customer is here for a price point, and user is somebody who's looking at these two in a collective way, right? So if I give you an example of Tunaiku is a application which basically, when somebody needs a loan, they come, they apply for a loan. If the money is disbursed, they get out. So there is no rhyme or reason for him to come back. So this is the normal behavior when we look at loan as an online lending behavior in Indonesia. But what is more important here is to look at not just in this whole scenario, we are just looking at the need-based segments, people who need a loan. But there are outliers who are necessity-based, who is not contemplating a loan at this point in time, who are want-based. Want-based could be, I'm looking for a phone, a new phone, a second-hand phone. There is a possibility that, a loan can play a very vital role while he's looking for it. So it's very important to understand from a segmentation standpoint as to what is a need, what is a necessity, what is a demand, and then create demand moments in these people's life. So every person would have a demand moment, as Sarika was just saying, create those micro moments. Everybody should understand these moments, which are basically the demands, and then intervene, interject and say, look, this is what I have you as a benefit. This is what I have you as a reward. That's when segmentation effectively works. Segmentation should, at Amar Bank, segmentation for us tells us what our TG isn't, because your segmentation should tell you as to what your TG isn't, because we are in a day-to-day basis looking at what our customers want, but we also have to understand what our customers don't want. And hence your segmentation should tell you that. This is what we do at Amar Bank.
Okay, awesome. So I think, sorry, echo again. Yeah, okay. So, interesting. So you really capture you figure out the want and what do they actually need, and then accordingly push it. Okay, that's I think that is also something that I think other people can learn as well. I think we have a question for you. Let's go right at it. So let's not leave it till the end. So what is a good entry-level customer engagement data generation tool or platform should one organization look into? Appreciate your input on what to out and not non-negotiable. Thank you. I guess that question is to you, Khalid.
Okay. From an entry-level standpoint, yes, it's very important to understand what your customer is in terms of your PII data. So when you're taking it on your app, it's important to look at, where is this customer coming from? Does he happen to come from your geography? Does he happen to come from your demography? So what stage of life does one come out of? Because at every stage, the need states, the want states or demand states actually change. But while I'm talking in context to the banking industry, the relationship with money has been existent since the money has existed, right? So if we look at it today, person who needs money, who's between the age group of 19 to 24, would need it for a different purpose when it comes to a person who's between the age group of 35 to 45. But that relationship still exists. But then the stage defines as to what is important. How should you be packaging the product around it? Or could be a loan, could be a savings account, could be a term deposit. So the need states change based on the life stage. So life stage becomes very important. Hence your demographics and your psychographics around that.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope that answers your questions, Indina. I guess let's move on. Thank you, Khalid. So let's move on to the media industry, right? So we have Dian and Cahyanto here. So Dian, what about you at Kompas Gramedia, right? Like what do you do as a segmentation tactic?
Yeah. I think for publishing industry, we always work for two kind of clients or audiences, right? With two different goals. The first is for the audience itself, for our readers, and the second for advertisers. So based on those two different goals and different objectives, we are also approaching segmentation in a different way. So for example, internally for our readers, we in KG Media, we have at least three group of readers: the flyby, the moderate, and the loyal. And we are digging those three segments into the content consumption behavior. So we have people who like automotive, we like people who like politics, people who like music, and so on and so on. And we are also digging out with the what kind of content that resonate with them the most. The goal is to shift the flyby into moderate and the moderate to loyal, because I think in the keynote mentioned that the loyal customer give you more revenue, right? 2 or 3 5 times more revenue. So it is true in approach for our readers. And then for advertisers, actually, we are more sort of passive because we are serving what the advertiser needs. So starting from basic demography, consumption behavior. So sometimes advertisers also want to target those people who read automotive a lot, those people who read, health, that kind of things. So we are serving that, and we are putting on the different segmentation based on advertisers' needs, up to a point when we have to also connect with e-commerce, because now advertiser needs purchase intent segmentation kind of thing. So I think that's basically what we are doing in publishing. So two different approach, two different needs.
Yeah.
So a lot of exercise, a lot of technology adoption that we exercise. Not all technology are good, but we building ourselves, and that's what we're doing in daily basis.
Okay. Thank you for that. So yeah, it's a little more complex here for the media, because people have different people have different sort of interests, right, as opposed to finance.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's a good different perspective, right? What about you, Cahyanto?
Okay. As Gabby said, also is the media and entertainment consumption industry has changed significantly over the past few years. Maybe Gabby already explained about the perspective of media industry doing segmentation between users and also clients, and then it's also the same. But then I would like to share with you guys how can we leverage in our internal based on the data. So based on the data that used to bucket users at the universe, we divide it into three categories actually. The first is demographic data, such as gender and ages. The second is behavioral data to define our user action, such as a login frequency, time on spend on our verticals, and general level engagement on our internal campaign. And the last one is technographic data, which about users' technologies used, for example, like device, gadget, desktop, tablet, or mobile devices. So all those factors are depending on the data that we would like to analyze on our internal team. And then regarding to your question also, how do we use the cohort for the segmentation? Basically, we are doing the two factors on our internal product team. The first factor is usage frequency on our mobile application actually. The usage frequency is a great way to bucket users on their state of engagement. Our users that use the mobile application often find enough value to keep coming back while they're waiting, as Kemi said also, like for the users who are rare reading the article day by day, we have to attract them to read every day and more often. And then surfacing to new users the features or content that frequent users enjoy could help get new users to value faster. And then the second part is time on site or on mobile apps also. While at KLY, while users spending their time on a site on app also is usually a good indicator for us to do some experiment to increasing our features. For example, the segmenting users by the time they spend, and then another metrics that we could digging based on the data allow us to learn which features and also which behaviors and also which content that are correlated with the higher engagement, so that they can surface new ideas to increasing the users and also improving the features based on those data. I think that's all from my perspective at KLY.
Okay. Good, nice perspective. I mean, from media, right? It's like two different, but I mean, it's good that you use the frequency, right? So that's what you look at. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that, Cahyanto. Awesome. So now we know how everyone here does segmentation, right? So I have a question. So what are some of the unique sort of preferences or behavioral patterns that you use to build your campaigns? Like, especially for organizations who are starting off, what are some of the parameters they should definitely consider, especially when it comes to segmentation, right? So, I mean, who wants to go first? Cahyanto, you can go first since you're here on screen.
Okay, so basically the unique preferences based on the media perspective. So based on research and trend analysis that we do internally, we study the growth patterns of our users, really diverse, and then who have interest on our content at KapanLagi Youniverse. For example, one of the significant ones is on KapanLagi.com, and then where the growth of users who are interested on the Korean artists and Korean K-pop always grow month to month. From this, we begin to be optimistic about creating the KapanLagi Korea segment and also channel. From this channel, we get the segmentation of the readers who are interested into the community and participate into the community group. And then we consider this to be unique because the segmentation is not only due to the demographic, but also the users specific segment based on the favorite boy band and also girl band that we call it as a fandom. Maybe all of you who are really interested on the Korean boy band or girl band know the keyword fandom in here. And then this has become separate pool data for KapanLagi Korea. And also we take this opportunity to boost article via several marketing funnels such as email blast, push notification, and WhatsApp for the Korean community based on first party data actually.
Okay, awesome. So you really like sort of, really segment, yeah, Korean boy band. I am sure a lot of people in Southeast Asia watch now Korean boy band. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Cahyanto. What about you, Dian? So I'll just repeat that question for some of the attendees, right?
I think it's natural for KLY to have that kind of segmentation because they are more into entertainment. In our case, it's more to news. So I think the most interesting part is that we have the aggregated consumer behavior data year by year. We are now maybe the biggest online digital news. We have number 1 and number 3. So we have representative of how Indonesian consume that kind of media, and we can slice that into hyper local because we have tribunnews.com is number 1 online news right now, and it's hyper local news online news media. So for example, in our case, we have the unique approach of segmenting audience based on what is for example, in entertainment, who is the favorite movie star of Surabaya, and who is the favorite movie star for example, Makassar people. They have different preferences, so it's really useful for advertiser if they want to go to engage with local audiences because for years Indonesian advertisers seen Indonesia only from Jakarta point of view, right? So whatever data that you have in Jakarta and Greater Jakarta, it considered Indonesia have the same behavior or taste. So when we chop down that data through Tribun News reading behavior, we understand what kind of music that engage with people in Maluku, what kind of music that engage with people in Banda Aceh or Palembang. So it's have different spectrum of behavior from the content only. So by doing that, we can give some insight for advertiser. Hey, if you want to go to Aceh, don't hire this singer, but please do hire this singer because it's resonate with Aceh people. So it's really useful for us to get to that granularity of data only based on the reading behavior from our aggregated data. So that's, I think, the uniqueness of KG Media so far. It's really resonate also with advertiser if we present this kind of data based on that kind of reading behavior. Yeah.
So you really localize yourself based on the state and how people are. Okay, and is that what advice would you give to especially organizations who are just starting off segmentation? Would you advise them to basically try to localize themselves as well, or anything else you would like to?
Yeah.
What should they consider?
Yeah, I think based on what I've been talking earlier. I think it is important. We've been monitoring this hyperlocal data for 3 years, and we've seen that it is unlogical to see Indonesia only from Jakarta point of view, especially when the economic growth now is happening outside Jakarta, right? So people have to go down to, cities outside Java and see and engage with those kind of people and see what data can get from that kind of hyper locality point of view, because it's very different. It's very different. So it's really interesting to go that kind of granularity from Indonesia point of view. And to do that, I think start looking for start looking at your data and chopping down city by city, and looking at different behavior, different tradition, different custom, and what is the different opinion of certain subject. For example, financial, because we have financial speaker here. They have a really different approach of how they see the future of financial. So you have to see that in that kind of things also.
Completely makes sense. So, look into like the smaller cities, because that's where, it makes total sense. Thank you so much, Dian. Now that you mentioned financial, let's move on. So let's start with Indina, right? At Kredivo, like what are some, I'm just going to repeat the question for the attendees, right? So what are some of the unique preferences or like behavioral patterns that you use to build your campaigns, and anything that, you want to advise, or what they should, for starting organizations who are just starting, what should they consider? So Indina?
Yeah, thanks. I think this, I don't know if I can call this unique, but to some extent, maybe it's unique to our industry. So some of the features that we also look into are, for example, their repayment behavior, because we lend some money, right, for them to buy products and pay back over time. So we do look at their repayment behavior, and also what are their purchase drivers. Are they receptive to promos, or what kind of incentive that really resonates with them and drive higher engagement? And also, what kind of communication channels are these people more receptive to? Because I think the equation of retention is that you have an action that you want to trigger, and then you set up the right incentive, and then convey it in a very compelling manner specifically towards that segment, and then through the right channels. I think MoEngage has been very helpful as well to help us segment target each segment. So what I would, it really depends on the amount of data that you have to further personalize your the experience, the marketing strategy and offerings. But I think what I would recommend to organizations which just started to do this, I think find that uniqueness of the purchasing journey of your product and services. Check the user status. I think it's important where at which stage of the purchasing journey are they, and then usage of your app or website. See how they interact with your interface, and how they respond to certain products or offerings. And I think one more thing that we do as well, I think once you step into more advanced segmentation, that we also look at their predictive lifetime value, not only their current lifetime value, but we predict which segment would actually bring higher LTV in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 years. So yeah, I think be clear about the parameters that you want to measure. So create that quadrant, for example, average order value versus frequency. And then I think the idea is really to move up the low performing users to the higher performing quadrant. So I think it's important to have that measurement to measure the effectiveness, and then you invest your resources on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying basically understand where they are in the user journey, and then like sort of target them accordingly, right? Like understand where they are in the stage first. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Indina. Actually, we have a question from Louis Cherian. Even with a defined need that the customer has, there could be associated needs a home loan makes way to pitch for an interior decoration loan, to a new car loan, and maybe a holiday loan. Now that you have worked so hard, this is discovering a new need based on the need displayed. How do you address this? Are you able to read the question?
Oh, it's towards me?
Well, I mean,
Is the
because
question to
I
me?
guess we're talking about loans, so probably I thought I'll just ask you.
Sorry, wait. I don't think I can find the question. Is it in the Q&A or in the chat?
Yeah, in the chat.
It's in the Q&A section, addressed to Khalid, but Kredivo can also certainly answer.
I see. Okay, home loan makes. Unit based on a need displayed to upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Yeah, I think you have you always have two options, right? To upsell, like to encourage the existing behavior. So for example, we have a segment that says, for example, young professionals that love to take personal loans, for example, right? Or for example, family person who loves e-commerce to buy their needs on e-commerce, for example. So we encourage them to take another loan or take another e-commerce purchase, but with higher value products. And some of them react better to brands, some of the brands that we work with, and some of them are more reactive to product categories. Or the second option is that you can cross-sell, offer other products and features that would bring more revenue, like more revenue generating behaviors. So I hope that answers this. And one of the findings that from our experiment is that people tend to stick to their behavior before they look into other possibilities. So I think, but it's not impossible. I mean, with the right incentive, I think they would like to explore and try other things as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Abu Indina. We'll move on to the other questions later on. But before that, I also want to hear what Agnes and Khalid has to say about some of the unique preferences or behavioral patterns that you guys use to build your campaign. So Agnes, choose. Okay, Khalid, whoever wants to go first.
Okay, so yeah, as important as it is to look at transactional segmentation, look at transactions, marry that with a behavior that gives you an idea of how do you look like, either, as a customer, would you be needing this loan? Would you be needing some other loan? So how do you look at a propensity building model around defining what is it that how do you cross-sell and how do you upsell? So what I would actually like to suggest or recommend to somebody who's starting is, even before you start your segmentation, start with an empathy, start with understanding what is it that customer is lacking in his life so that you build that gap. You fill that gap, and it's very important to backward integrate that product to a forward integrated, behavior, or vice versa. So it's to beginners, don't look at, segments as, look at them as homogeneous groups. Don't go very micro. Don't start building user related ideas into a consumer segmentation, because user is then when he actually comes on your app and starts getting used to your app or starts getting used to your platform. Before that, he has a lot of things happening around in his life. So don't look at building user ideas into your consumer segmentation map. Understand the journeys, look at where is the, say, negative delta happening in terms of where is the problem coming from, and fill that gap with creating that whole journey very seamless. So that is one thing. And second thing is, don't look at average values when it comes to segments. Look at, I think, more of how are your customers distributed within your segments is more important. So these 2 points actually give you a clear view of how should you be forward integrating a product to a backward integrated behavior.
I like that, forward integrated to a backward integrated. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Khalid. Agnes, what about you?
Khalid, yeah, mute yourself, please, Khalid. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just to echo what Khalid and Indina have mentioned, I think with regards towards doing targeted campaign, we typically look at the user journey and then we try to work backwards depending on the business targets that we are trying to achieve. For example, if we are trying to do like an upsell, cross-sell type of behaviors, we'll then see what kind of, to give an example, right? Our investment business, which is selling mutual funds products, we observe that, users typically don't purchase during mid-month where they're typically like a cash crunch, which is quite atypical in the industry. And then it is typically high during post-payday up till the 10th of the month. So given that we are trying to fill the gap, which is the low activities during mid-month, we've then devised promotional strategies around how we will tap into the free cash flow available in the user's wallet post-payday period, just to get them to at least try investing, as we also notice that once users have gone through that cycle of, just subscribing and redeeming, which is developing trust with the wallet, seeing their balance being reflected live in real time, they actually develop some kind of trust and they tend to subscribe more in the future. So that to say that if we are trying to just increase our AUM, understanding that a certain group of users have to fulfill these types of behaviors before they get there, we try to incentivize promotional strategies that help us gear towards that, right? But I think that is available to us because we have amassed a significant amount of behavioral data. For someone who is starting out, I would always recommend to look at, the product funnel journey, trying to see from where did the traffic came from, if it was acquired through paid channels. Try to see which channels that gave you the highest. What was it? TikTok? Was it Facebook? Was it Google? Or even look at the different segments within the channels that were brought in, right? Just trying to initially try to get a grasp on if a certain segments brought in by different channels that demonstrate a certain behaviors first. I think that is step number one before we even go towards any behavioral or transactional relationship. Following which, right? How do they react towards a certain ads? What was their retention behaviors and whatnot? What was there like a certain desirable behaviors that you were hoping to achieve being demonstrated in a particular group, and then we will then dissect it further and go after it. Go after those users from external sources at least. I think that I would recommend that as a step number one, really, from which channel as well as the product analytics in app.
Okay. Thank you, Agnes. I hope everyone's listening to that. Some great advice from Agnes. Speaking on channels, right, we also have a question from Eric John. I mean, feel free, anyone from the panelists wants to answer this. Hi, everyone. Let me ask this question. Which social media platforms do you use best that drives traffic for your companies? Very tricky question. So
perhaps I could help address it while I was on the topic of paid channels. I think in OVO, we use variety of channels, and the amount of traffic actually depends on the business we are trying to grow. To give an example, an investment business whom we are trying to go after the single employed, someone who is somewhat investment savvy, but who is still, willing to try out different products. For example, we actually noticed that TikTok as a new channel is delivering us quite a significant number of quite decent CAC as well as traffic, at least in terms of conversion. Of course, the other two, Facebook, Google, still remains our biggest channel, but we do see that there is a pull coming from the younger crowds, at least for our investment behaviors. Of course, for payment, then the channel mix would be slightly different. And at least for our offline payment business, we also do have the benefit of a lot of organic traffic from the ground for being present in front of all the stores, right? With all our 30% off and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to answer the questions, I think the channel mix really depends on the audience that you're going after. I think each social media platform definitely have somewhat distinct audience that they actually promote, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Agnes. Eric John, I hope that answers your question. TikTok, very interesting. So I guess moving on to media, right? Do you guys use TikTok? I mean, anyone uses TikTok here? Okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Dian and Cahyanto, so I'm just gonna address this to both of you since in media and in the interest of time, right? So, how do you manage? I mean, now that we're talking about segmentation and personalization and all of that, right? So, how do you manage the thin line between personalization and privacy, right? So that just that people don't feel like you're
Right. It's very thin line. Ari, you want to go first or me first?
You first.
Let me do first. The old one first.
Okay.
First of all, there's no specific law yet in Indonesia, privacy data, right? We are looking at some draft going around in the parliament, but it's not been executed yet. So it's been halted, and I think it will happen maybe end of this year. But we both of us, Ari and I, is in Indonesian Digital Association, right? We are discussing this with some of the government and the industry. So I think for publisher, to be honest, we are really pay attention to data privacy in the past 2 years. For us in KG Media, at least, yeah. So we are starting to apply, because there is no law whatsoever in Indonesia. So we're starting to apply GDPR as a reference to approach this, because it's a gold standard for everybody, right? So at least we have a consent statement, a disclaimer statement. We are now building cookie statement in our website. It needs time because we manage 172 websites right now, so it needs time to.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think the approach to this is that we are it's not fixing, we are improving. We are really respecting the data privacy, and we are improving this by getting more and more consent from our readers, and after the consent, you can do whatever you want legally by the consent. Either it's for commercial needs, either for internal needs. So the important phase for us is to do now is to get more people to consent to the data usage based on data privacy law, and in this context we are referring to GDPR. So we have publishing industry known for these jokes that we have the biggest audience in the country, but we don't know them. Right?
Yeah.
So for example, KG Media managing maybe 70 million unique user a month, but maybe we only know 5% of them, less than 5%.
Yeah.
So it means there's a lot of work. It's still a lot of homework to do, but for now we are using the GDPR approach, and hopefully the new law will be executed this year, and we can see more clearly what is legal, what is not legal, and hopefully that we will also get rid of many illegal activity in this space for data privacy. So that's, I think, the most important thing, especially for financial. I think this law is needed to get rid of many illegal activities done not by company like us, but more to the individual that doing harm to this and make us look worse, right?
Yeah.
As a data operator. So I think for media, we are learning, we are exploring, we are trying, and we try to get more first party data and consent with data privacy using GDPR approach.
Okay, thank you. And I think, thank you, but we have a question actually. Since you mentioned about cookies, from Mary Pay, what are the 3 main things you have done to continue enriching your data science since cookies are set to be eliminated soon, especially with iOS changes?
Yes, this is also a hot
Good question. Yeah,
it's also a hot topic in publishing industry. It's happening. The cookie will gone from Chrome this year, and I think the first reaction from publisher, maybe KG Media and also KLY, is that we accelerating our first party data capability. So since Google announced that they will get rid of cookies from Chrome, I think the first reaction for us is, okay, holy, we have to invest on
Yeah.
first party data capability. So we are investing on that. We are building that. It's been the second year for us. So we are keep building our first party data capability, our CDP capability, or even our machine learning capability, just to make it more valuable for advertisers. And also for our readers to have more pleasant experience reading our content. So.
Okay, thank you. I hope, Mary Pay, that answers your question. Barry, what to you?
Okay. So basically for statement from Gemi, also same perspective as a digital media industry. In digital media industry, it's really important to keep the user's data private during personalization. We do the action plan by focusing on our users and become transparent with them. As Gemi mentioned also, regarding to the no exact regulation in Indonesia that pertaining to the privacy data as a digital media. So we converted into the first party data as Gemi also mentioned. And then, so why focusing on our users? So KOL always focus on users and tries to perceive how personalization affects them. And then having access to personal data should be used to enhance the user experience is our protocol. For example, while we are doing the experiment, as we know that a lot of first party data that we already created a lot for the past few years. And then the next, how can we do the data to leverage a lot of content regarding to the segmentation based on the first party data? Maybe, for example, like enhancing the marketing funnel and then give them the content which connected with their first party data. And then the next part that I would like to share with you guys is transparency is the key. Since that our users understand the value of their personal information, and also for the digital media publishing industry, they want to know to whom they trust it as a digital media publisher. And then as a digital media publisher, also as Gemi said, we do not provide personal data from users to brand. As we see the segmentation, not only for the users, also for the brand and clients, unless there is a campaign where the users input the data themselves to the brand or the agency. For example, in a group community member such as KapanLagi Korea and also KapanLagi Dangdut, we will not give our community members data directly to the brand because it's really different if the community members provide the data directly to the brand during the activity campaign. So we are really strict for the first party data and also still counting right now, preparing for the first party data increasing on this year, since that third party cookie sunset will become on this year.
Okay, thank you, Barry. I quite like that. So you basically, I mean, as far as people give consent, that you're just using whatever they like sort of give consent to, right? Okay, makes sense. Thank you, Barry. So I think it's obviously a last question. I mean, the same question, but it's more towards for the banking fintech guys. So Agnes, Indina, and Khalid, if you can answer all together. So in fintech, lending, banking, right? How do you deal with the data collection amidst all the personalization versus privacy or JECA and all of that?
Let me take this question first. So in the banking industry, I think we are living with one of these biggest paradoxes here: privacy versus personalization. Right? So of late, when digitization actually evolved, that's when people started feeling that they're getting naked with the data. But if you looked at traditional banks, they also took your data. You have given it every time that you have gone to a bank. But today, people, while customers come back and complain that your product is not very personalized, at the same time, they are the ones who are most reluctant to give their information, right? So here, I think it needs to be in the DNA, as Ari rightly put. Transparency is the key. It has to be in the DNA of every organization to deal with the data and let people know that this is how we deal with your data. Simply put, at Amar Bank, we have a lot of PII data, and we have a lot of transactional data. We have a lot of behavioral data. We have a lot of whatsoever data it is. Keep the PII data separate with, the other data to, create a lake in the way where PII data doesn't sit together with the behavior, and put that as a disclaimer every time you're going on a consent or permission marketing. There's a very nice word that was coined 10 years ago saying permission marketing. So look, every time that you are taking a consent, put a disclaimer out there and say, we don't use your PII data, we only use your behavioral data. We don't need to know who it is. It is all about what it is. So I think it's important to tell people and create that trust that the data is not otherwise used. But end of the day, Tunaiku is a lending platform, or it gives you online loans without any collaterals. You don't need a collateral to take a loan between 2 million to 20 million. Approximately works out to be $200 to $2,000. So how do we do that? And we also give loans to underbanked, unbanked segments. So data becomes very important for us to understand, is the credit worthiness there? We are not looking at your credit or banking history. You don't have a banking history, but somewhere we need to come to consensus with the fact that, okay, we are doing it at a risk. And OJK obviously looks at it from an aspect. Of course, they have helped in a very larger aspect of how should we be dealing with the data, but it's very important for people also, customers also, to understand.
Got it. I hope your customers are here and they hear you out loud also. Awesome, thank you. Agnes and Indina, what about you guys?
Maybe I can go first, just to add on what Khalid said. I think I totally agree. I mean, at Kredivo, we lent up to 30 million rupiah, which is, I think, more than $2,000 for a retail borrower. I think it's quite significant. And I think data nowadays is a trade-off for that seamless experience, right? Without collateral, we can qualify our users to get instant access to this credit in real time. So, but it doesn't mean that companies like us act irresponsibly, right, with the data that we mine. So I think we only mine and process data that the customers have given consent to, but also we assess thousands of variables, from the mobile phone, but totally compliant with the OJK in Indonesian Financial Services Authorities, and we take data privacy and security very, very seriously. So yeah, I think it's, as a big data company, right? It's literally a big dump of data per customer that we assess, but it could be something trivial that seems trivial, like for example the time that this user is applying. Maybe it seems trivial, but it is valuable to us. So how do you transform or make meaning out of that data to tell whether this user is a good user or bad? So I think the key is, I think, to find that balance and between the personalization for better user experience while ensuring the security as well. And just be transparent, make our privacy policies also made public. So
okay, thank you. That makes sense. Agnes?
I think just to echo Indina and Khalid, being in the financial service sector, of course, the regulations and whatnot is something that we should always keep in mind, right? So, but at least I don't think it has been a roadblock for us. I do think it is somewhat to our advantage because at least being in the financial service sector, you need a certain amount of personal information, and that has to be consented by the customers. For example, to do KYCs, I'm sure in Kredivo and Amar Bank, you guys do the same too, right? So those basic informations at least have been given upfront and consented with by the users directly. So all we need to do is really play our part, right? Make sure that we protect their assets and all those information. So at least in OVO, customer privacy trust is something that we put as our core principles. We do aim to communicate transparently in our messages with regards to our privacy policies and whatnot. And I think like in the long term, it has somewhat been rewarding for us, given that we continue to see an increase in our stock value fund metrics, whereby we see more and more users actually put in more overbalance in our wallet, right? So it's a signal of trust. But I think I echo Khalid and Indina. I think transparency is the key thing here, and always putting customers' trust and best interest at the forefront, right?
Thank you. So I guess transparency and, just getting the trust first before you can actually. Awesome. Thank you so much, Agnes. So we do have two questions, Amir and from Sudeep, but we're way out of time now. The next panel is already probably waiting. So I will answer your questions. I'll take it up offline, or any of the panelists, if you guys want to answer this question from Subhadeep and Amir, feel free to just chat. Thank you so much, Agnes, Indina, Khalid, Cahyanto, and Dian. It was really awesome having you here.